God, I have to do like a million things to get this video right, and it is just showing me how ADHD I am. I'm not medicated today, so. Hi all, welcome back to my channel where I often discuss things that I've done wrong and how you can avoid the mistakes I've made. Well, this time we're going to be talking about ADHD. I've been diagnosed from the young age of 7, and there's a lot of different things I've done throughout that time. I'll touch upon the traits of ADHD people, some tips and possible treatments, medicated and non, and my story throughout. Before we get into it, be sure to like my video and subscribe if you are interested in this kind of content. Not everyone's ADHD looks the same. It can differ by gender or age or type of person. But in general, there are common traits of ADHD people. Now, ADHD is not necessarily a lack of focus, but an inability to control where you are focused on. They are less likely to focus on things they're uninterested in because they're not getting enough dopamine from it. They tend to be distracted or daydream or maybe seem uninterested and careless. Vice versa, if they're interested in something, they will be hyper-focused onto it. It'll be hard to break their attention from it. Maybe you'd be talking to them and they can't even hear you. And that leads into another thing of time blindness. A lot of times ADHD people cannot perceive time as a motivating factor. It is more likely they will be focused on something that they're doing or distracted by something they don't want to be doing. And it is not necessarily their fault, it is just something to be aware of. They tend to be hyper and talk a lot or fidget or get up and move around quite a bit. They also tend to be more risk-taking as well. That's just scratching the surface of all of this. If you want to dive deeper into all those, I fully welcome you to. All of these traits aren't necessarily bad qualities. You can utilize them for good if you understand yourself and how to work with them, and we'll get more into that with this video. I was diagnosed very young in the first grade, and I do feel lucky for that. I was always running around. I was a bit of a wild child, so my parents and teachers couldn't get me to sit still and listen or learn. I didn't want to learn. I actively pushed away from learning, and I hid in the bathroom in school. Thankfully, my teacher noticed, and I got diagnosed instead of punished. Now I know that ADHD brains mature at a slower pace, which makes a lot of sense because I'm very different now. I really enjoy learning, not so much back then. So I was transferred to a special school, a neurodivergent school for ADHD kids as well as dyslexic. I didn't like all of the things about this school. Socially, I really didn't like it, so it wasn't like my favorite experience, but there were some great ways that I learned to help work with myself and my ADHD. They were big on memorization. So at the beginning of every classroom, they had these boards with texture on them, and we would take one to our desk, and anytime we would have to recite something, we would move our hand over the board, and that texture supposedly helped us remember things. And if we didn't have a board at home or something, we could use something like our jeans or a rough material to try to help remember that. We also stood up a lot to recite things such as states or times tables, and to this day, I know my times tables backwards and forwards. I am very good at those, so I do think it works. They gave us a lot of freedom. We were allowed to doodle, we had frequent breaks. There were a lot of visuals in the classroom, which still helps me a lot to this day. Like when I'm listening to a podcast, I have to look up what's going on sometimes because it just helps me grasp the experience more. They gave us very independent and creative assignments, so we were allowed to choose our own path. You know, like maybe choose what paper we're going to write, what book we're going to read and write a paper on. And having that choice, I really understand now, increases your dopamine because you're interested in the thing that you're picking. If a school like that is impossible, maybe you should try getting a tutor or a mentor or even an accountability partner. These people can check in on you and work with you in a way that might suit you best. There's other tips and tricks I'm going to share later in this video as well. Now I'm going to get into the treatment avenues. So I was diagnosed really young and given amphetamines, you know, the ADHD pills. And I started with Ritalin, and then I switched to Concerta, which is a time release where Ritalin is just a short span of time. It worked pretty well for me. I did need it quite a bit when I first started taking it to get on track and to understand that I like learning and to, you know, grasp concepts and start making moves forward. But I don't necessarily think I needed it every single day in school. I don't necessarily think I needed as much. And I ended up kind of getting numb to this medication over time and then taking more and increasing my dose so that I could feel that same amount of focus. That in turn gave me massive amounts of insomnia. I had a lot of trouble sleeping, and I did not know those two were connected, but it's a side effect of taking the medication that you may have insomnia and trouble sleeping, anxiety, all the things I had trouble with when I was younger. In college, I completely stopped taking the medication, and I really enjoyed my studies. I really liked studying photography. It's art school, it's not that big of a deal, but even in classes that involved math and science and history, I was doing well in those classes as well. Maybe you don't need it all the time, but I did need it in high school quite a bit. I just wish I didn't continuously increase my dose and I took more breaks. If I had to do it again, I probably would do a little bit more of the non-medicated avenues mixed in. Nowadays, I rarely take the medication at all. If I do, I don't even take a full dose. I now know that ADHD meds increase your dopamine and they give you a euphoria. Inevitably, you may want more each time if you're continuously taking it to compete with the experience you had before. The higher you end up going with these ADHD meds, the more significant the drop. You can drop below the baseline of your usual, not just going up high and dropping down low, but going lower than low. So there's different natural stimulants you can take, such as coffee. I'm not so much of a fan of coffee besides the taste. I really enjoy the taste, but for me, I usually feel like jittery or my stomach's not great with it or, whatever. Some people, it actually relaxes them as well. So it's not exactly what you'd want to feel stimulated. If you're an ADHD person, yerba mate is a really good thing to drink if you want that natural amphetamine. As you know, ADHD meds are an amphetamine, so yerba mate is a natural version of that, and it can help keep you motivated. I really like mushroom coffee as well, the adaptogenic coffee alternative. This provides a nice little boost without the drop, so I don't have any crash throughout the day, and I liked it so much that I wrote the company and I got a coupon code that I'm gonna put in the caption below. Check that out. I like it with liquid stevia personally. Matcha is a really, really good source of a lot of the benefits that green tea gives you, but on blast. So you'll get more of it than you would get with green tea. L-theanine is about 5 times stronger in matcha than it is in green tea. And L-theanine is a common nootropic that people take for ADHD to stay focused. L-theanine promotes relaxation and focus. If you take it as a supplement, it can also give you that same boost. What I warn with L-theanine is that it may not work for everybody. It doesn't always motivate every single person. So it kind of depends on what works for you. It lowers blood pressure, which may mean you're not as motivated if you already have lower blood pressure. It can also create sort of like a tolerance issue where you have to take more and more each time. So maybe balance it with other things and not rely on it every day. There's an overwhelming amount of research that omega-3 fatty acids really help the brain focus. I like to get it from seeds and nuts oftentimes, but I also supplement occasionally. I'm personally not as into L-tyrosine. I just kind of don't enjoy what I feel on it. And I looked it up, and a lot of people experience migraines with it. And there's often a crash that people experience afterwards as well. So good to keep in mind, but maybe it does work for you. B6 is often taken. That's a vitamin, of course, that could throw off other vitamins if you have too much of it. So that's also good to keep in mind. Some people get B6 toxic, but some people swear by it. Taking too many nootropics is definitely not something that I would say to do. It's good to take breaks. It's good to see how you are with something and without something. And that goes with everything that you are doing. It is so good to take breaks from things and understand how they are influencing you and affecting you. So I'm gonna get into the tips and tricks now. I'm gonna start with working. When I'm working, I try to create a experience for myself. I want to have a certain time to get into my hyper-focus mode and my flow. And I also want to take breaks throughout the day for other things. So maybe I'm checking emails and I'm also washing dishes and I'm also doing laundry. But if I'm doing something like editing a video or editing photos, I might want to work for a really long experience of time. So I try to create a schedule that works for all of that. You might have a completely different job that goes in a completely different direction than this, but that's how I would say I work really well. And while I'm working, I try to limit screen time, put on a focus mode, and just stay focused and power through it. Some people work really well with the motivation of timers. Other people, it's a person motivating them, keeping them focused. Figure out what motivates you. Maybe it's the thought of being done and having that reward of people congratulating you or something. For some, it's competition. Everyone has a different type of motivation, so you'll have to figure out what works for you. Like for me, when I'm stuck somewhere, I work really well actually. So if I'm in the library or I'm co-working with someone or I'm stuck in the airport, I end up powering through a project really easily. That's just me, maybe. I think it's really good to have a priority list and go through that list and make sure you're doing the most important things first, because you might not always get through it, especially if you get into hyper-focus mode with one of those. I can end up spending all day doing something that's really unimportant and not really fully being aware of the fact that I need to go back and do the most important thing. How I create lists, I put that into my notes app in my phone. It just comes with the phone. I find it very easy. Some people like a physical notepad. Some people like Evernote. I know a lot of people use Notion. I just use notes and I write down a schedule for my day or things I need to get done or things I need to remember. I also use the calendar app on my phone. Again, just comes with the phone. And I put different reminders throughout the day, alerts for these different things that I need to accomplish. I also really like to use alarms just in case I'm going to go overtime and I don't want to mess something up. I put an alarm for well before I need to leave the house so that I have time to go to the bathroom and let my dog out and maybe get a snack, get in the car with my water bottle, all that stuff, so that I'm not missing the mark on things, time blindness and all that. Eat well, sleep well, and exercise well. This is so helpful because a healthy body is a healthy mind. These 3 things have been proven to be super effective for people who are treating their ADHD in a non-medicated way. Have a good sleep routine, good sleep hygiene, meaning dimming the lights at night, wearing blue light glasses. I usually dim my TV, I read a book, find tasty, nourishing food to eat that's low in sugar, that you enjoy eating. Do physical activities you actually enjoy, not just things that you think you should be doing or part of your work, but hobbies too. Apparently it's really good to stay away from food allergies, which might sound really straightforward, but it's funny how little we think about the food we're eating sometimes when it's just part of our daily life. So it's good to try changing things out and putting things in and seeing how your body reacts to it and knowing what the signs are of allergies, because not everybody's super aware of things that are irritating to their system. Doing cold therapy, that increases dopamine so much. So if you already have a lack of dopamine from having ADHD, it can only help to integrate some cold therapy. Reduce or eliminate substances. Of course, that sounds straightforward again, but not everybody's super aware of habits that they are doing on a regular basis and how that may influence their focus level. So it's good to take breaks. I've trained myself on having less of everything, and I've found that to be very helpful for me. Less is so much more, and I am so much more balanced and focused because of it. Do what you love. Turns out ADHD people can only be 100% authentic and genuine, and they can't really force themselves to do things that they don't want to do. Being in the right school or the right job, those things will be super helpful for you to just be in your most successful path. Meditation. I really like meditation, but not the standard Vipassana for me. I actually just like meditative living, just like washing the dishes and being mindful, going on a dog walk and being mindful, having quiet time to just be mindful. I also really like the chakra meditation, which I used to sleep and wake up. The chakra meditation is just imagining a rose closing on each chakra. It is a Qigong meditation that I've done for a very long time to help myself turn off and go to sleep at night. And also you can imagine these roses opening in the morning if you're having trouble getting out of bed. There are so many different meditation techniques, and it can be so helpful if you are noticing you have impulsive urges like the ADHD people have, or anger like a lot of ADHD people have. It can be so helpful to just learn different techniques. I'm also very sensitive, which is maybe why I'm an artist. All of my senses are heightened. I wish they weren't. So I use a sound machine to sleep. And it's just white noise playing and allows me to just tune out and focus. And also, if I hear any noises while I'm working, I would need to use sound canceling headphones and put in an ADHD playlist. Clean and organize your digital and physical space. It may vary from person to person, but for me, it is super helpful to have everything in its own place and have less. Just minimalist living. And then you can just get into your work environment and just go power through. And then just working on developing dopamine. Having a practice of gratitude actually helps you more than the reward system. So if you find things that you're enjoying about what you're learning, you'll be more motivated to learn and stay on task. Then maybe it's just me, but I like to listen to podcasts, audiobooks, and YouTube videos on a super fast speed. And you can change the speed settings in all of these very easily. It helps me consume this information so much faster, and I'm not, distracted or daydreaming because it's being thrown at me and I want to catch it. It's the same with reading. I like to read fast or I'm falling asleep. I don't know why, but that's just how it is for me. Maybe it'll help you too. If there's anything that you think has worked really well for you, I'd love for you to share it in the comments below. I don't know everything, but these are some of the things that have worked for me and my story along the way, so hopefully you've appreciated it. I've enjoyed telling it to you. I hope you can like this video, subscribe to the content. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.